I want to say that I knew what I was getting myself into. That I knew exactly what kind of job this was going to be and what kind of things it was going to have me do. Truth is, for the first 6 months, I didn't realize that being a detective meant that you had to have a license. But I've been out of prison for 2 years now, and if there's one thing I can be sure of, it's that at least I won't be arrested on the job. This time around, I was arrested in a whole other kind of way. Arrested by the taste of a cheap bottle of liquor and the scent of a cigarette long past its prime. Some people hit rock bottom, but I was hitting rock shandy. I was 13 bottles in before I realized it contained no alcohol whatsoever. And after 13 trips to the bathroom, I needed a miracle to get me back on my feet. That's when she decided to knock. Who goes there?
Is this the detective agency?
It used to be.
Frank Finger's detective agency?
It ought to be.
Are you Frank Finger?
I try to be.
Well, if you do happen to succeed in being him, I have a very sensitive case I wish to bring to your attention, Mr. Finger.
My sensitive days are over.
Come again?
Sensitivity never got a man anywhere.
I beg to differ.
Sensitivity is for women and effeminate little boys. And there's one thing I absolutely am not. It's little.
Well, perhaps I could be the judge of that.
I can use that bathroom all by myself. So
Mr. Finger!
Little boy, 13 times.
If you just open the door for me, Mr. Finger, I think you'll find nothing little about the case I have for you.
It isn't locked. Man who locks his door is like a zebra without stripes. A mutant.
Right. Well, if you won't open the door for a lady, I suppose the lady will have to let herself in and take matters into her own hands. I'm coming in.
All right, then. But I don't know what you think it is going to get the attention of this old...
Enter Velvet, the sight of whom stops Frank in his tracks. She wears a black trench coat buttoned up to the collar, a wide-brimmed hat, high heels, and red lipstick. Sultry jazz plays.
If I happen to utter any more words in that sentence, then I can't remember a single syllable. Everything I had to say was rendered utterly irrelevant by the 110 pounds of high-heeled creme de la creme that had just stepped into the flaky office that was my life.
As Frank narrates, Velvet removes her hat to reveal an explosion of curls. She runs a hand through her hair before walking slowly around Frank in seductive, dreamlike fashion.
Of all the detective agencies and all the strip malls in all the world, she walked right into mine. If she didn't happen to have a specific professional reason for coming here, I'd have said it was fate. Her hair was like licorice on a windy day, and her lips were as red as the lipstick she put on over them. Even the way she moved was mesmerizing, like a kitten doing a striptease. If these walls could talk, they'd be calling her sexy.
May I take a seat, Mr. Finger?
Whatever you say, sweetheart.
Mr. Finger?
The jazz music abruptly stops and Velvet snaps out of the seductive persona. She has clearly been standing there for some time.
Yeah?
May I take a seat?
Oh, be my guest. Just don't put too much weight on it. My insurance doesn't cover gravity-related injuries.
Velvet looks between Frank and the empty space where a chair should be.
Do you have a seat?
Ah, yes. Where are my manners?
Frank reaches under his desk and produces a small beanbag. He drops it in front of the desk, then sits back smugly. After an awkward pause, Velvet sits.
Now then, to what do I owe this beautiful pleasure?
Well, as I
Want a
said...
cigarette?
No, thank you.
Here, let me light it for you.
Frank lights a cigarette from his case and awkwardly places the lit cigarette on the middle of the desk.
Reach over and take it any time you want.
Won't that singe the desk?
It sure will, Steve.
Okay. Like I said, Mr. Finger, I have a case of extreme delicacy I wish to discuss with you.
And who might I be discussing it with?
My name is Nixon. Velvet Nixon.
Nixon, huh? Looks like I'll have to start learning a little French.
I'm an American, Mr. Finger. I come from a family of great political notoriety, though I don't think I need to say much more than that.
Well, Barack's good luck to running the family.
Tell me, Mr. Finger, what do you know of Funky the Dolphin?
I know he's a man who likes to get his nose wet.
And?
I know that he's dead.
Is that it?
I never did place much value in the newspapers. That always was a sore spot for my editor.
Well, Mr. Fungi was assassinated. A lone gunman fired 3 bullets from a grassy silent sheep. One passed right through his dorsal fin and injured a local councillor on the boat behind him. The second entered above his jaw, bounced around the inside of his stomach with lots of pinging sounds, and then spurted out the top of his blowhole like a Tex Avery cartoon.
Sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it was a little bit. And the third one blew his head off and sprayed an ocean of brains onto a boat full of watching children.
Except one.
Except I don't believe the gunman was acting alone. The official investigation concluded that he was a failed marine biologist who was out for revenge. But I believe he was working for someone powerful, who would benefit from Mr. Fungi's death.
And who might that be?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm here.
Well, I don't know why you expected me to know the answer.
I don't, Mr. Finger. I expect you to find out.
And what makes your beautiful woman brain so sure that this has the fingerprints of a conspiracy?
Velvet produces a folder from her bag and hands it across the desk to Frank, with slight difficulty given her position on the beanbag. Frank opens the folder and stares intently at the photograph inside.
This picture is from Mr. Fungi's classified autopsy report. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a gory red stump where his head used to be. But look closer. The bullet lodged in the shredded remains of his neck. It is marked with an insignia.
Caspar David Friedrich's Wanderer above a sea of fog.
Precisely.
How the hell did they fit that on there?
A very small paintbrush, Mr. Finger. That painting, if you know your German romanticism, is considered to be a masterpiece of intellectual philosophy and art.
You think the German romantics put a hit on old Fungi Boy?
I don't know. What I do know is that this painting on the bullet shows that Danny Healy Oswald, the lone gunman, could not have been acting alone.
How come?
He failed art in his leaving certificate. Turn the page and have a look. That's a Facebook post from the gunman that he made back in the spring of 2011.
Art is gay. I'm not drawing some lino shit like a fucking puff. Has cans down in his free gaff for McGregor versus Doherty on Saturday. Paint my sack for all I care. I'm not missing this absolute legendary bout. Huh. Seems like a crude expression for a romantic.
Precisely. But the German expressionists haven't ordered an assassination in decades. Whoever wanted Fungi the Dolphin dead, Mr. Healy Oswald was simply the finger that pulled the trigger.
So, you're telling me that some dolphin-hating art collector pulled a John Wilkes Booth and committed fungicide?
That's what I want you to find out.
Well, lucky for you, sweetheart, I've taken the case already.
You have?
Sure as punch.
You don't want to hear about payment or anything like that?
Beautiful woman like you. I took the case before you even opened your mouth.
That's not especially reassuring.
I like to keep the element of surprise.
Well, if you do find anything, you can reach me on this telephone number. But be discreet. No one else knows about the information I've just divulged with you, and I fear there may be forces determined to keep this from ever getting out.
A knockout woman giving me a direct line to her telephone. I'll have to remind myself to stay professional.
Velvet rises from the beanbag and stands before Frank.
Just one more thing, Mr. Finger.
Hit me.
I'm not going to sleep with you. Ever. There's not a single reality in which that will ever happen. Ever. Do you understand?
I'm starting to get a picture.
It's a very large, very detailed picture of you, alone, never having sex with me, under any earthly circumstances. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for your time, Mr. Finger. I expect your findings as soon as you've gathered them.
Velvet begins walking towards the door.
How did you get access to a classified autopsy report?
Like I said, Mr. Finger, I come from a family of great political notoriety.
What's your interest in all this? Who was this Fungi guy to you anyway?
Velvet opens the door and hovers there for a moment, a soft flash of reminiscence crossing her face.
He was more than just a guy to me, Mr. Finger. He was my husband.
Velvet exits.
And there departed the woman who took my heart, tossed it around, and handed it back with a sorry note. In 10 minutes or less, I went from Love Lawn to Struck and back again. In a town like this, it was practically Shakespeare. But I had a case on my desk and at least 2 prostitutes in my phone book. Detective Frank Finger was back on the up and up. Murder, conspiracy, and a broad with some genes in the politics pool. Funky the Dolphin was going to find Flippery justice, even if it took me all of the calendar month. My only regret was forgetting to ask for any money.
Blackout. Scene 3.